Well, boy, was I wrong about the Coyotes game going into their to their big win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll talk about that on today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On, Coyotes' #1 daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Robyn Leonio. Matthew is off this week, as I told you earlier in the day, so it's okay, but I'm not solo this time. I got my good friend Mike Gould on the show today. Mike, welcome to the show.
No problem, Robyn. I'm expecting some more free Topgolf the next time I come down to the valley just to offset this big favor I'm doing. I'm just kidding. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, yeah, it's absolutely great to have you on. And we want to thank everyone listening to this show for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcast. The Arizona Coyotes, Mike, took a 3-1 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning at home. And what a win it was. I was critical, Mike, after their win over the Golden Knights. I was like, okay, it could be like a fluke win. They weren't playing great. Vegas just played an even worse game. I just don't know if they can keep it. And then they pull this game out of their behinds, and I'm like, whoa, where did this team come from? They looked great actually out there for the most part.
Yeah, they definitely had some really good moments in this one. They had moments where I thought they had some issues in their own end, but they had a lot of pressure in the offensive zone at key points in the game. I thought Logan Cooley had one of his better games in the NHL. I thought he was really confident with the puck, making things happen, which is something where he's faded into the background a little bit more often than not in recent weeks. And so the fact that he's had a couple of really good games in a row, I think, is a big deal for him. I mean, he's a young kid. He's playing in the best league in the world, and it's just night in, night out. It's hard to do that grind. And so I thought that he had a good game tonight. He was noticeable, even though he didn't get on the scoreboard. And then, of course, you look Connor Ingram and net, just lightning against the Lightning. I mean, he obviously is a former Lightning prospect who fell out of favor in that organization and has come to Arizona. And in 2 games against the Lightning, going back to last season, he's allowed 1 goal on, I think, 79 shots. And, he had a shutout last year, I think 47 saves or something like that. And this year, a goal against on 32, big 3-1 win. And he was their best player. He also had an assist tonight, too.
I don't know. That was a great performance from Ingram. I'm going to kind of get to some of those stats out in a little bit. I'm glad you mentioned Logan Cooley, though, because I think that's something I definitely really want to touch on in the performance he had tonight. Because I think it really is a really crucial thing to know that Matthew and I were critical of him through the beginning of the season. Like, we were optimistic, obviously. This is Locked On Cooley, also as another nickname for ourselves, for all it is anyways. But we're critical in the sense that we felt like he wasn't getting the confidence enough to take a shot. We felt like on the power play, he felt like he had to always pass it to Clayton Keller, because Clayton Keller is the guy for the Arizona Coyotes. And I feel like even wherever he was, he just felt like he seemed like a pass-first kind of guy. In this game against the Lightning, I saw him shoot more than I've ever seen in any of the other previous games. And to me, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I just thought he was moving his feet really well. I thought he was attacking on the outside when defenders were giving him open space. I thought he was conscious of when he needed to cut back. And I really like what they've got going on with Tourigny, putting Cooley out there a lot with Keller and Schmaltz, but also when the matchups necessitate it, switching in Alex Kerfoot, which makes a lot of sense. That was what happened at the end of the game when Tampa had its goaltender out there for a bit. It was Keller Schmaltz and Kerfoot. And I like that versatility that they have. Obviously, Barrett Hayton, Jack McBain being out is tough. I think Barrett's still the better fit on that line, but I really like what I'm seeing from Logan Cooley, just compared to a couple of games ago where I think he was having trouble asserting himself. And tonight he looked very assertive. I thought he was, again, attacking very well. And he very well could have had a couple of points in this game. I mean, I don't know the exact figures for him on the ice or individually, but he just looked like a much more confident player, and that's obviously a good sign. It's tough for these players coming out of college too, where you're only really playing on the weekends to play, every 2 days, every 2 or 3 days. It's such a tough adjustment. And for a player like him to be as productive as he has been through his first 21 games, I mean, you have to hand it to him, even on nights where he's not necessarily doing, his best, which we have seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another thing to note too, because but the transition from college to the pro level is, with Minnesota, he was like one of the top, like easily like elite players there. Obviously, he was playing alongside, Matthew Nyes and some other really talented, talented people over there and in Minnesota, but he was part of a team that just absolutely dominated. And now kind of going to a team where they're still growing. The Coyotes still got some growing pains, but I feel like that kind of shows, and it really showed throughout the last couple weeks, and again today.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the numbers right now. Just pulled them up. Cooley finished with the best expected goals percentage of any Coyotes forward tonight. The Coyotes kind of got caved in that respect tonight. Tampa Bay had better, I think, sustained sequences. And the expected goals and chances and all that ended up being a little bit more slanted in Tampa Bay's favor, which I think matches the eye test of that game. It was, I think Tampa Bay picked it up. They were a little bit more dangerous at times. Steven Stamkos probably should have scored a goal or two tonight. But Cooley was the closest forward to that 50% threshold. He was right below it, 49.9. And then he also led them in total individual expected goals, which obviously is a measure of the dangerousness of the scoring chances. So he not only had the best on-ice metrics of any Coyotes forward tonight, he was also the best at creating offensive chances for the Coyotes tonight, which obviously you can't not see that and say, that's great. I mean, for a 19-year-old who has at times struggled at 5-on-5, who has relied more heavily upon the power play. It's worth noting the Coyotes didn't have a power play in this game until late in the third. And even so, he was noticeable all night long. So that's a big sign, because in recent weeks, the telltale thing with Cooley has been when you have those 2-minute stretches where the Coyotes are on the power play, watch him. And then the rest of the game, don't really have to key on him as much. And I think part of that has been sort of his line mates. He's been playing with the Kerfoots and the Carcones and the Boyds. It's been tougher for him. So the fact that he has more skilled offensive players around him is obviously going to help him. But I think a lot of it's on him too, just taking advantage of those lanes when they come in front of him and doing what he needs to do. And he's done a good job the last couple of games.
Absolutely. A sure change that we hope to see continues to even improve even more over the next couple of weeks and next couple of games, as once again the Arizona Coyotes take a 3-1 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're going to continue talking about this on Locked On Coyotes. Mike Gould once again joining us. We're going to get through some of the stats as well as the 3 stars of the game before taking a look ahead of what's to come for the Arizona Coyotes. All that coming up right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Mike, let's get to a little bit more of this breakdown for the Arizona Coyotes is once again they take the 3-1 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I got a little stats graphic for us right here as I bring it up here on our on the YouTube. If you're watching it, Arizona went as it shows 3-1. They were outshot. It was 25-32 in favor of Tampa Bay. But if you look at everything else, Mike, stats are gosh darn even on just the basic stats.
Yeah, it's pretty equitable right there, as you can see. It was a strange game in some respects. It was a game where I think the Coyotes did pretty good, did pretty well at matching Tampa Bay in terms of quantity, and it was a tough game. Tampa Bay still just such a skilled team, and you look at players like Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point and Steven Stamkos, the way that they move the puck around. They've played together for years, and in some respects, I think the Coyotes were a little bit fortunate. I mean, Steven Stamkos is probably not going to have a great sleep tonight after the way that game went. He was stymied by Connor Ingram on a number of occasions. He missed a wide open net in that, I think it's the second period. He was all around it, but he couldn't get one tonight. But the raw shots on goal, you look at that. I think generally speaking, they did a decent job of holding the Lightning to the outside. It's just, I also think they got a little bit lucky, but at the same time, they have gotten unlucky in games this year.
Yeah.
They have played games against teams that they should have beat that they didn't. So it all kind of evens itself out. This isn't a team that's getting absolutely blown out or getting its doors knocked down with crazy grade A scoring chances that they're somehow managing to overcome. They have, good players. They have good lines that aren't always at the top of their game, but they can come through at the right times. And tonight they just got a bit more puck luck than the Lightning did. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the things that's on the list here. And I think one thing that I like to mention too, and it's something I mentioned in the pregame show, Mike, and that is that good teams find ways to win games. No matter how weird it might be, no matter how lucky it is, good teams will find ways to win games. And I feel like the Coyotes are starting to grasp that. They're trying to find the ways to win games, finding ways to stay competitive. And like you said, they got that little puck luck to them, but they still found a way to win. And what better way to win than having, riding on the back of yet another crazy goaltending performance from Connor Ingram. As I bring up the 3 stars, Mike, that's something I also want to mention too. 3 stars of the game for Locked On Coyotes. Connor Ingram is easily one of those stars. Michael Carcone with 2 goals. Alex Kerfoot with 2 assists. Again, these players were part of that, Mike, in finding ways to win games.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? Michael Carcone's been such a fun story to follow this season. He was a guy who, was down in Tucson for a lot of last year. Maybe shouldn't have been, but I think they were worried about maybe losing him on waivers. He was a guy who I think was clearly too good for that league. And he has come a long way, since he was in the Leafs organization, the Canucks organization, the Senators organization, briefly with the Nashville organization, before arriving in Arizona. Tonight, I think Carcone got a couple goals that were, the second one was a great skill play. The first one was pure luck. I mean, he shoots that one from long distance, and a goalie in Jonas Johansson, who probably isn't an NHL caliber goalie, just completely misses it. Carcone tonight, I think Carcone has been really good by and large this season. The Coyotes have generally performed really well with him on the ice. They've outshot their opponents. Tonight they didn't. I was going to bring this up. So the shots on goal with Carcone on the ice tonight at 5-on-5 were 12-5 Tampa Bay, but the shot attempts were 27-7 for Tampa Bay with Carcone on the ice tonight, which is something. Now, I think that paints maybe a slightly more unflattering picture of Carcone than is the reality. I think a lot of those shots were from the outside that were blocked, and I don't think he was, quite that deleterious an influence on the overall picture of the game. Because obviously, he scores those 2 goals. The second one, I mean, that's just a great instance of a player just picking the right time to jump into the play and make a power move toward the net. And, that's a play that Michael Carcone has made a lot. He's a player who's not afraid to get to the dirty areas. He's not the biggest guy, but Bill Armstrong doesn't mind having a smaller guy if he has that willingness to make the right plays that he covets. And that is something with Michael Carcone that I think he's got to be over the moon about so far, because he's got 9 goals. He's tied for 38th in the league with Leon Draisaitl and Jonathan Marchessault and Joe Pavelski and a bunch of other guys. It's hilarious. So the fact that they have this guy signed next year too at $775, I mean, that's just great value.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing I love. I love how you mentioned his Michael Carcone's like path to getting to the Coyotes, because I feel like it's important to get that, as you mentioned, his time with the Roadrunners and all the teams he spent since then. I want to point out, and I've mentioned this multiple times, so those that have who listen to the show every day know what I think about this and know my thoughts of it all. I got a chance to watch Michael Carcone during the COVID year, when the Milwaukee Admirals, the minor league affiliate, AHL affiliate of the Nashville Predators, decided not to play. So what the Nashville Predators did was they loaned Michael Carcone to the Tucson Roadrunners, because that's one of the players that needed an extra roster player, and that again, that they just needed, they needed an extra roster player, and Michael Carcone just fit in perfectly. And it was cool because I got a chance to watch Carcone play, and I'm like, hey, he's not a Coyotes player right now, but hey, cool to see someone who might be on the future of another team. Find out the next offseason the Predators don't sign him to a new contract. The Coyotes are like, well, crap, he played really well for us in the first year in Tucson. Let's sign him again. And he just blew off. He took off the next couple of years, and now he's here.
Yeah, it's a career trajectory you don't see very often, and the fact that he's done so well this season. He did pretty well 2 years ago. Last year, it was spot duty for him. He was an AHL All-Star. He set the Tucson record in points. I had a chance to chat with Carcone at the AHL All-Star game last year. I was there in Laval, and I was covering the Flames prospects, but I ran in with Carcone at some function that was happening that weekend. And I remember saying to him, they got to get you up in the NHL. You're just scoring so much. And he was like, yeah, well, maybe it'll happen. And it was just, that was sort of it. And then, I'm back in Phoenix a couple weeks ago, well, a little bit more, about a month ago now. And I was there, when he scores the hat trick against Chicago. And so that was an emotional night for a lot of people, because that was Rich Nairn's last game as the public relations guy with the Coyotes. So we were all in the dressing room afterwards, and we talked to Carcone, and Craig Morgan loves to bring up how Carcone was his own agent when he signed his entry level deal. He basically had to shop himself around, and I think he ended up signing, I don't remember, I think it was with the Canucks, and and there was a lot of emotion. Carcone being like, yeah, I've made it to this point where I'm scoring a hat trick in the NHL, and I'm trying to remember what my point was going to be. I saw him again after we were done with the availability, and I said to him, I had a chat with you last year at the AHL All-Star game, and I said, they should have you up in the NHL, I said to him, I think they were idiots, and he was like, yeah, they probably were. and Rich was there, and we just had a laugh about
That's
it, because
awesome.
we were both just joking. But it was just the sort of thing where this was a guy who knew that he had something he could prove. If he got that shot at the next level, he could prove it. And I think it was an interesting show of him having maybe a little bit of loyalty to an organization that took the chance on him when he got loaned to him. And he just had that fire. I could tell it when I talked to him last year. He wanted to come back up. And obviously, he has to stay down in Tucson. I think they were concerned about his waiver exemption, him not being exempt from waivers. And they wanted to keep a good thing going down there and have their prospects down there operating in an environment where they wanted to make the playoffs. And they ended up making the playoffs. And so I think I honestly wonder if it was a situation where, Bill and the staff were like, we're going to keep you down there, and you do what you do there and usher in our prospects, be a mentor, and we're going to reward you after the fact, and we'll bring you up and we'll give you that chance. I wouldn't be surprised if that was an unspoken thing, because that seems like a thing that seems like something that
Oh
makes
yeah,
sense.
no, and I think that's that kind of thing
Yeah.
that seems like the kind of thing that Bill Armstrong would give, and I think
Yeah.
I think it definitely kind of spells the kind of opportunity that the Coyotes organization has been giving, not just Carcone, but to a lot of the players, a lot of the young players out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's really an organization where they're looking for talent at every position. I mean, and that's the nature of a rebuild. And you know, I don't think Bill is chapped up with how old somebody is. I mean, Carcone's what, 27, and this will be his first full season. You know, he is looking for talent at any position he can find it. I mean, you look at Michael Kesselring, who played again tonight. I think they'll have
Also
to
had a
drag
great
him
game.
Yeah, I think they'll have to drag him kicking and screaming back to Tucson if they try to send him back down. I think he has played extremely well. I think he has made perhaps other defensemen on this team already expendable. With you look at how well he played in his 9 games last year. You look at what he offers as a guy who can chip in offensively, who is confident with the puck, who is a big, good skater, who is just does everything you kind of want to have from a bottom pairing defenseman. And I think you look at guys like Josh Brown and Troy Stetcher, both of whom are in the last years of their deals, or, you know, Stetcher's on a 1-year deal. And you're looking at these guys and saying, you know, you've done what you've been asked to do on a team that's been in a transitory period, but we're getting to the point where it's time to actually make that transition. And you look at a guy like Michael Kesselring, who comes over in the Bukestad trade, and he is sort of the prototype of what you want to have in a young guy making less than $1 million, coming up and being a plug and play piece who is really a positive contributor.
Absolutely. He's like I said, he's like you said it perfectly. He's also been a bright spot on there. But we're going to close out our thoughts on this, though, and we're going to take a look ahead what's coming up for the Arizona Coyotes as they continue through what Matt and I have been calling the Stanley Cup Gauntlet. We'll get through that and in just a sec. But first, a quick word from our sponsors on today's show. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I don't know about you guys, but there are so many times in which I'm going through trying to buy a ticket to like a baseball game or to a football game, and not only do I get surprised by last minute or like by these crazy fees that come up after I hit checkout, or to find out that the seat actually sucked. It just all had so many issues. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets for your next big event. That's why Game Time has fixed all of that in just one app. Game Time app has a lot of different upcoming events in the area. So if you want to go to a concert, if you want to go to a football game, hey, you know what? Even though we're several months away, I know a lot of you Arizonans are people who want to visit Arizona and want to check out spring training. You can also check those out as well, as they got last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. You can even view the seats in from the venue, so you can actually see what you're getting before you get there. The lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job protection. It is the only ticketing app that gives you peace of mind with your purchase. You can actually get all-in pricing, so you see your total up front after fees before you hit purchase. So you don't have to even worry about getting surprised when it's already there for you. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Mike, let's take a look ahead, though, now for the Arizona Coyotes, because, like, they are 3 games in, so they're halfway through the Stanley Cup Gauntlet. As we mentioned, you know, what the Stanley Cup Gauntlet is going through in 6 games, going each of the last 5 Stanley Cup champions. They lost to the Blues in such a high-scoring fashion to start off with, and now 2 back-to-back wins over the most recent Stanley Cup champion over the weekend, and then just tonight or last night, when everyone might be listening to this episode, a win over back-to-back Stanley Cup champions from 2020, 2021. That's an impressive start to this gauntlet, Mike, and what Matt and I kind of thought had pretty low expectations for.
Yeah, I was worried this could maybe get out of hand on them after they lost 3 in a row. I was thinking this could maybe be a 4, 5, 6 game slide that they take into December, and they really have to answer some hard questions about what they want this team to be. And I don't think any of that would have affected their rebuild, but it's just a matter of, are we competitive enough? Are we at the point in our rise where we feel like we're giving our young guys enough support? Now, I think they have responded very well over the last 2 games. And even before that, I think the game against St. Louis was one that they probably could have won. They were 5-5 in that one, and they gave up a goal. And it felt to me like if they had gotten that game to overtime, they might have won it. So now, you go into their next game against Colorado. Colorado's a funny team. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll play Prosvetov. Wouldn't that be something? But Colorado's had its share of ups and downs this season. They certainly haven't been unimpeachable, but they've won 4 in a row now, and they're firmly atop that Central Division. 15 out of 21 wins this year. So the one part of my brain is saying, well, they're due for a loss. We'll see. But after that, you have games against teams in St. Louis and Washington, and those are teams that are beatable this year. And they've been on their own little runs of late. St. Louis is 6 out of 10 wins, and Washington has been somewhat hot. I mean, they've lost back to back. Before that, they were on a pretty good roll. So, they're not. You can't look past them, but they are games against teams that aren't as good as they have been. And you look at, you talk about this a cup gauntlet. 3 of these teams are teams that are still contenders. You look at Vegas and Tampa Bay and Colorado. Washington, St. Louis, not so much at this point. So they're teams that they can theoretically get some points against. What I would like to see is, even if they lose, them starting to get some games into overtime. That's the mark of a good team as well, is that you are good enough to battle to a tie after 60. And I would love to see that against the Blues. That game they lost 6-5. They just held on to that 5-5 tie. They were unable to do that night. So we'll see if they can maybe manage to do that in the upcoming 3 games.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting because going into this gauntlet, Matthew's prediction was like he'd be surprised if he was predicting around just about 2 wins in this 6-game stretch, because he said because those are tough games. He obviously didn't expect a win over Vegas or Tampa, and was like iffy on the game against Colorado because the Coyotes tend to have like boom or bust games against Colorado. So like he put like a 50-50 on that one. But yeah, the others were just like, okay, yeah, those are toss-ups.
They are definitely overdue for big statement games from their top guys. Not so much the Michelli line, that's been very good of late, but I mean Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. They have not been themselves quite as much of late. I mean, they scored the combined to score the game-winning goal against Vegas. But they haven't been scoring at their usual rate. They're both on pace for seasons that would be below what they managed last year, and they had strong starts, but they haven't been quite at their typical level in the last couple of weeks. So I think they are due. Colorado again is due. But you never know. I mean, you can't go off of priors in games like this. It's always
hockey is stupid.
Exactly. So ideally, it'd be great if they could win 2 of these next 3, which is, that would make them 4 out of 6 on this 6-game stretch, which would be quite something, because after that, their schedule is back down to, teams they would ideally beat. So, the fact that they're holding on and they're firmly still in the race for a playoff spot at this point, they got 22 points. They're tied with Nashville. They're 1 back of St. Louis. There's no reason not to be optimistic at this point. There are good things happening.
Yeah, I am looking at that schedule too, and looking it up after that 6-game stretch is over. You got the Flyers, the Bruins, the Sabres, the Penguins, the Sharks as your next.
Yeah, like Bruins are tough, but hey, they beat them at Mullet last year. I can't remember if their next game. No, it's at TD Garden, but still, they've beaten this Bruins team. And yeah, you look at it. They play the Sharks. They play the Sabres twice. They play the Senators. They play the Flyers. They play the Sharks twice actually in December as well. So, there are games there that you would hope they would be able to win. And assuming they get some positive regression in the form of more goal scoring from guys like Schmaltz, they could be in line for a decent month. And of course, you're hoping as well in December that you're getting guys like Barrett Hayton back and guys like Travis Dermott back, which apparently almost happened, maybe even tonight.
Dermott's coming close, from my
yeah.
understanding. Yeah, he's skating, but he's just not quite there yet. He's just kind of like not fitting in yet. But that's a good sign, right? That players are slowly coming back. I think Hayton's probably still going to take probably the longest, but.
Well, I'm not sure if he'll take as long as McBain, but yeah, it's tough. With Dermott, the thing that I wonder at this point is, you bring back Travis Dermott and you have Kolyachonok hurt, but Kesselring is playing very well. Do you keep 8 defensemen? Because I think as of right now, I think they have 13 forwards and maybe 7D. I don't have it in front of me, but do you keep Kesselring up and have him play and maybe rotate in the veterans, have a rotation of Dermott and Stetcher and Brown, and maybe have Kesselring sit the odd night out as well. I'm not sure, but with the way that Kesselring is playing, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him. And Brown, I thought had a good game tonight as well. But it's been a tough start for him, so it's just something where I wonder about once you get that player in Dermott back, what do you do? Because Kesselring, again, he's making it difficult to send him down. Really.
No, absolutely. And the defense sure is a huge question mark. I've had optimism about the defense going into the season, and kind of it's been a little bit shaky since then. Definitely something that I want to pick your brain on as later this week, but obviously we'll get to that when we get there. So if you want to tune in to all our listeners to one of the future episodes of Locked On Coyotes later this week, be sure to just check it out. Mike will definitely have his thoughts on all that. But we are out of time for this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We appreciate everyone for listening. If you like what you heard, don't forget to like, comment, leave a review. Subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on SiriusXM and ad-free on Amazon Music. Mike, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where we can follow you and your work?
We got lots of stuff going on at Daily Faceoff, dailyfaceoff.com. Busy time of the year. Trades probably starting to happen here in the next couple of weeks. Looking forward to some of the big moves starting to happen. And I'm on Twitter at miketgould, but that is right underneath my face, so I don't need to tell you that.
Well, that's where you can follow Mike Gould. You can follow us on social media. We're on X at LO_Coyotes, or the app formerly known as Twitter, if you guys doesn't know. And you can follow me at Robyn_Leonu. Matthew Jacobson, who is unable to join us this week due to his vacation, you can follow him at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask us any question we might answer right back or in a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys staying safe out there. Hope you guys staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.